So, just going to take you through the installation of the FPGASID in an SX64. So first, we need to take off the case. We have a number of screws on the back of this power supply here. We need to take those off first. Start at the top. And the side rails. And finally, the bottom screws holding on the power supply. So, slide the side panels off, and you should see a row of screws along the top half. We're only dealing with the top half today, so I'll get on with unscrewing those on both sides. And at that point we should be able to carefully lift up and away of the lid. Okay, with the lid off, we can first start by disconnecting these cables. So first we have the external video cable. Let's move that out of the way. External serial cable. The internal serial cable. So the user port cable, and then the power supply to the I/O card. We'll just move this power supply back. You can see that on the main board. Hopefully you can see there's large power connector there. We need to disconnect that. And that looks a bit like this. You can also disconnect the keyboard cable. Move that out of the way. And then finally, the cable which connects the internal video to the monitor. Just to make our job a little easier as well, we can disconnect, unscrew this expansion port. And this will help us get the cards out a little easier. Just take the cover and the screws away. You can just leave it like that. That'll give us a bit of flexibility when we try to take the cards out. So the next thing is installed here, here, here And finally here are 4 black pins holding the boards onto the chassis itself. We can pop those out. Almost like a press stud type of idea. The pin comes away. Keep those safe. These are real small, so make sure when they ping out you don't lose them. Okay, so with all these cables disconnected now, we should very carefully be able to lift the I/O and the mainboard card out. Just careful for any snagging wires that you might see that we have here. There we go, and that comes out as a complete unit. Put that to one side. So, with the cards removed, we end up with this. So we have the main board, the I/O card. The OI card just slots using pins into the main board, so we can remove that gently, like this. And we can put the I/O card to one side. So here we've got the main board and where most of our FPGA will be sat. Got the PLA chip. Obviously this SX is currently using a third party replacement. We have the SID chip. So this is the original SID chip with the heat sinks on, which we'll be removing. And then we have the CPU plus the kernel basic JAROMs. And as we don't have access to the expansion port slots, we're going to be using one of the pins on this chip here, this UC1 chip. So first thing we need to do is remove the SID chip. So for this job I use a IC extractor just to save bending the pins. So you just hook with both ends and slowly lift it up, and there we go. That's the SID chip removed. Put that to one side. So as you can probably see, in this PLA chip rides quite high. I mean, even with an original, PLA chip, even with an original PLA in there, you'll probably find that the FPGA just won't fit in that socket due to the PLA. So what we need to do is install an extension, so just an extra 28 pin turned pin socket. We'll place that into the socket of the SID chip and press down. Okay, so we can install our second socket on top just to get that extra bit of clearance. Okay, that's installed. And then finally, the FPGA. Yeah, that's great. Plenty of clearance there. And notice the orientation here. So pin 1 of the FPGA is here. Make sure it's pointed in this direction. So the next stage is to install the 3-wire cable, and this allows us to use the addressing modes of the FPGA. So we have yellow, black and red wires. So initially we'll be working on the CPU, which, let's turn this around, This is the CPU, and as you can see, I've marked pin 1 with a yellow marker there. And we'll be using the yellow cable first, which is going to connect onto pin 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we can hook there we go. Pin 12, just let go and just make sure that's tight. The next cable is the black cable, and we're going to be connecting that to pin 15. So we know where 12 is now. 13, 14, 15. I'll push that down. 15. So we'll hook into there. That went a lot easier. So next we need to connect the last cable, which would generally be the cable that you connect onto the expansion port of the C64. In the case of the SX64, we'll be connecting it to the legs of one of the legs on the UC1 chip here. And that will be pin 10. So if we just turn this board around, okay, I haven't marked this one, but on this particular chip, pin 1 is in this way. So we need to count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on the right hand side, the second leg up from the bottom. So if we just hook that into there. Okay, great. Plug this in. It's the FPGA. And the final piece is the audio cable for the second SID, which at the moment, until the board's back into the SX64, we'll just leave this plugged in and dangling out. Just get that in there. There we go. Excellent. Right, just one thing to be careful of when we're building this back again, we just need to make sure that we're not obstructing this header here for the I/O card. So we need to just loop that round. Okay. Making sure that this card's the right orientation. Just install that here. I'll just make sure that it's not being obstructed. That looks okay. Okay. So now to install this back in the SX chassis. Okay, now I've got the chassis back. We can install the main board and the I/O card. You can probably see the channels here that just strengthen and support the cards when they're in place. So those are the positions that we're heading for with the cards when we insert them. So this out of the way for the time being. So carefully into these, back into the chassis, so you can see plenty of clearance. Okay, so both cards are in their grooves now, so just need to tidy this up a little bit. So we have the opening card. Great. And we can start to put the black pins back in which hold the boards in place. Okay, so we can start to plug some of these back in. So the internal video cable, we have the internal serial, power to the I/O board, plug in the user port ribbon, and if we can find it, the keyboard cable. Make sure you have that cable the right way around. So you need to have the pink cable closest to the speaker and the brown cables closest to the main board. Next is the large power cable here into the main board. Again, this is keyed so it will only go one way anyway. Okay, so with that in place, you can just carefully move the power board closer, and we can then plug in the external serial, and finally the external video port. Next, we need to connect the audio from the second SID onto the external video port. We do that by hooking this single red cable onto pin 7 of the video socket, which is here. So okay, that's great. Just move that down so we can close the lid. So just to finish off, we need to screw this power supply back onto the chassis. Then we'll put the lid on, then the sides, and that's our job done.